Sogat Babu, and very informative speeches. This is a good bill. There is nothing to criticize in it. Few faults, glitches I have seen. I have filed 2 amendments, which I think the Honourable Minister would be kind enough to consider. Because, sir, we have come to a stage in our democracy where any amendment that is given by the non-ruling party seems to be an affront, seems to be an inimical move. So to cut it down, to thrash it, to beat it up is like our divine duty. So I wish that attitude would change and practical suggestions should be taken in. Sir, you may remember in the last session also of the 16th Lok Sabha, the Honourable Minister of HRD had brought in a bill on centers of excellence, which enveloped some other institutes of higher learning. This could have also been brought in at that time. I am surprised why it was not brought in, because if this is going to be another center of excellence, then it could all have been dumped together, but somehow the government had chosen to keep it separate. So be it. I may have to speak a few harsh words. First of all, these schools are not like IIMs or IITs or IIITs. An architect or a planner, in my mind, signifies an artist, signifies somebody who is creating. And it is not a mere job seeker. Unlike IITs or other institutes where the young and the soft in the head are actually aspiring for a job in the US, their whole aim is campus recruitment, where before they gain any experience or before they gain any mastery or command over their subjects, they want to be employed with very high salaries. This school of architecture and planning, this thought itself is something completely different, and so it needs to be dealt with separately. Sir, as you know, in India, we always pride ourselves with our history, which is fine. Sogat Babu also mentioned a few points. I do not wish to rub it in. Our history has primarily been recorded only about the rulers, about the administrators. So the general social life somehow has been neglected by the Indian history scribes. Therefore, the buildings that we see today, the architecture that we see today, the building that we are sitting today, our colleague from the ADMK mentioned, this also, unfortunately, might have used Indian labor to carry the bricks and the stones up to a certain height, like elephants and Indian men, brown-skinned men like you and me. But the planning, the design, everything else has not been done by Indians. It has been done by white-skinned people, which Tamils will understand Velakras. So these are foreigners who have designed these things. Whether we look at the Taj Mahal, the Qutub Minar, anything, these are all associated with the rulers. If you go further back to Hampi or Konark, again it is the rulers, the kings and the others who made these I assume that these were probably Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme of those years. Whenever there was a drought, whenever there was distress amongst the populace, the kings started projects such as Hampi or Konark or many canals, and these were used to give grains to people to survive. So these are not, really speaking, signifying the Indian architecture. If you go to the villages of India, any rural areas from Bihar to Odisha, I've traveled in Tamil Nadu, I've traveled in Karnataka also. I have unfortunately or fortunately not had the good fortune of traveling in the model state of Gujarat, but otherwise in the northeast also. you will find that villages as such, except apart from Adivasi villages, sir, I want to clarify that. Adivasi villages have a very simple design and simple kind of cleanliness, and there would be an art. But if you see the general so-called other villages of upper castes or whatever, if you believe in casteism, which you do not, I know, sir, there you will realize that villages are very badly planned. Therefore, whenever there is a conflagration, a whole village gets razed to the ground in a matter of an hour or two. Before the fire brigade lands there, the whole village is burnt. So that means there has been an innate deficiency in our planning, in our architecture, and this is not something that has happened today. It has been there from our history. And therefore, the cities that you see today are also, cities and towns are also ill-planned, not able to cope with the huge population growth that this country, this subcontinent is facing. Suppose we go back to Mohenjo-daro. Sir, I have had the good fortune of visiting Mohenjo-daro. Mohenjo-daro had a very sparse population to handle, small drains, and they used to put limestones on top of the drains as a cover so that any water running through it would get sanitized because of the limestone. But on the other hand, they had a great bath, which you would have read about in your history books. That great bath, everybody used to come and bathe there, and the water used to be pumped from one of the rivers, the Sindh river that flows by nearby. But then that sort of a communal living is not possible in a densely populated country like India today. So what do we see today? We see grotesque, monstrous cities coming up like Gurgaon, sir, for example. Gurgaon is a great example. It has no electricity. There are outages every day. It has no water worth mentioning the name, no sewerage or sewage drainage system, treatment system. And apart from that, because of no green coverage, it is a completely dusty city, and this is right next to the capital of India. What does that signify? It signifies that when you give things to private players, especially in India, it does not signify that private players are going to create an island of heaven. They will most likely create something so wretched and so miserable that whoever moves in there will suffer for the rest of their existence. Unfortunately, most of the urban clusters in India, the free land around them, whether you go to Bangalore, you go to any other city for that matter, has been swallowed up, has been gobbled up by private developers who are hell-bent on making their money, but all the creations that they have, all the malls, all the theaters, everything, it has a lifespan of barely 3 to 5 years. So we are not really looking into the future of this country. Sir, the former US President John F. Kennedy, when he was questioned about infusion of huge amount of federal funds into city planning, had said, "We will neglect our cities to our peril, for in neglecting them, we neglect the nation." So this is probably extremely valid for a nation like the US, which is solely dependent on its cities, and their urban centers are very self-contained, and they produce enough to hold the nation together. Fortunately or unfortunately, we do not come from that kind of a milieu, that kind of a background. Our whole concentration should not be on 100 smart cities. Nobody is smart. We have heard the description of smart also, every letter standing for 2 words. Sir, all that smartness, the people of India decide every 5 years. Once our colleagues sitting here, they thought, sir, when they were sitting there, you were in the Lok Sabha, you used to sit here, you and I, we have seen them. They used to think they were the gods of the universe. What they knew, nobody knew. And today, the people of India said in very clear terms that, sorry, we know a little better than you. So sir, nobody, and since you are a great believer in socialist democracy, this will be applicable to you, sir, that nobody today in this country can actually claim to be smarter than the people. The people are the smartest. Today we are here. Tomorrow we may be there, we may be there, we may be out of this little place. So it is not smart cities we should be looking at. We should be looking at what people want. And I have more time, sir, thank you. And I would, sir, request the Honorable Minister that certain things she has to tweak so that this does not become a fiefdom of the Babus in her ministry or in the North Block and the South Block. All these bills seem very monotonous, without any imagination, without any concept of what the future will demand for us. So one little example I will give you. One is, they have very categorically mentioned that, this is in page 4 and number 10, sir, if you see, they are saying that these will be institutes of not-for-profit. Sir, if you look to the future of not 500 years, I am talking about 10 years, 15 years. Sir, the government is becoming more and more incapable of infusion of funds into so many schemes. So why not consider making these institutes financially capable of standing up for themselves, generating funds so that they can actually be centers of excellence. If they have good funds on their own, let them have some kind of independence of their own. Let them get teachers, let them get professors and lecturers from abroad. Let these genuinely become centers of international excellence. Sir, I will shut down my babbling in a short while. Sir, as you know, Sogat Babu mentioned about Le Corbusier. I just read in the papers recently that in Chandigarh, some of these Babus, not knowing what they were dealing with, they have given off very expensive furniture, very well-designed old furniture designed by Le Corbusier and by his colleagues, his group of designers and architects. Those were awesome furniture which was lying in very many government buildings. They have been hived off, they have been given away for a pittance, not knowing the real value, and those are now going abroad and they will be auctioned at extremely high costs. So this is how we treat excellence in art and in designing. Sir, we have had big designers, big planners. Sir, 2 minutes. फाइनल 2 मिनट सर, आप सोशलिस्ट हो, हम आपके साथ
नहीं समय का सर, समय के सीमा में काम करना है
सर। अच्छा बोल रहा है सर, बहुत सारे Sogat Babu mentioned a lot of big planners, big architects who design homes for all the big people. But sir, in this country also, there have been people like Laurie Baker, there have been people like Udar Pinto, there have been lots of small and medium people who have designed homes, very beautifully designed homes, well ventilated, well lit, which would require very little fans or electricity, and which will be nature friendly and which will be built with local material. But we have ensured, our big builders have ensured that those people have been crushed. So while supporting this bill, I would only want that the Honourable Minister should consider setting these excellence, these institutes of excellence comparatively free. Let them earn their worth. Let them be competitive at a global level. Let them have research, because we do not allow research. They are not growing. So let us allow the research, and let those who pass out be mandatorily, because they are doing it at the largest of the government, let them be asked through ULBs to work in the country for 2 years.
Honorable Chairman, sir.